Hello, beautiful strangers, and welcome back to another episode of Myth. When last we left off, we met in this loop, So and Riri, or I guess I should actually say Kiki and Riri, because, well, their memories are intact. They remember who they are. They have no memories of the other loops, it would seem, but they know who they are, which is, well, a sign of just how interesting things have gotten. Just to say the least. But let's get back into it, shall we? The scene changed to sunset. After finding you two, we returned home because So was tired and hungry. This is the same development as last time so far. Yuri said that as she read the notebook. Will something happen? Hi. Hey, we'll play after I finish recording, okay? Of course, none of us could answer that. Kiki must have realized that herself, but she must have been anxious. So, a blank in time, how aggravating. Riri-san spit those words out. Let's just take it easy. It's not like we've had much of an opportunity to do nothing. Riri and Kiki gazed at the sky as though longing for their homeland. I looked at the sunset as well. If not for this dangerously closed space, I'd likely be in awe of that sunset. That's how beautiful this world's natural scenery was. It's pretty. I couldn't help but say that. It almost felt like my brain ordered me to say that. It's comical. Regaining my will in that way was my main form of support, and a reason to live in itself. I wanted to interfere with the author by my own will. That's how I truly felt. And eventually, I'd regain myself. Indeed. Yuri replied to me a moment later. The shadow gazed at the sunset beside me. I was finally able to say what I couldn't earlier to her. I'm sorry. The words and emotion I felt formed on their own, ungoverned by the plot. It's my fault you came here, right? Have you been under that impression this whole time? That's the only explanation I could think of. You idiot. I'm not that kind of girl. Then why? I had many reasons for doing it. So many, in fact, you couldn't even begin to imagine them all. What's that mean? This was an inevitable outcome. There's no reason for you to worry about me. That's all. You've changed. Yeah, I have. She seemed fairly different from the Yuri I remembered. I still believed that she was Yuri, though. Something about her made me confident about that. I couldn't quite put why into words, though. Hi. We will play after I finish recording. I promise. I promise. I always promise you and I always do it. You should believe me. I don't lie to you often. It's like... Hey, look out. Riri-san suddenly shouted. My gaze and Yuri's shifted to the grasslands. Something abnormal was happening. The world itself no longer held a steady form. The scenery had grown indeterminate. I feel sick. I felt nauseous, but not like I was going to vomit. Despite the fact I wanted to, the world was warping. At the same time, we, too, were warping. Something's happening. I had a horrible headache. It felt like I had just raced down from the peak of a roller coaster. Pain and nausea beyond my wildest imagination. What? Calm down, something's about to happen. The world spun. My head hurt. Pop. Sign. Movement 3, Investigation, Harajuku Station Platform 1, December 18, 2016, AM 11:50. Sometimes, when I look back at the past, I sense an uneasiness among the familiar surroundings. For example, before Suica became commonplace, all train station ticket gates had manual ticket readers. I had memories of a child of being afraid my hand would be sucked in. The suction on those things was incredible. Nowadays, the Suica readers even work with one-use tickets. Whether that's connected to an increase in commuting speed, I don't really care. After I disembarked at the station, I searched for an apartment. The location was Harajuku, a station away from the office in Shinjuku. This part of town is bustling with young people at all times. One of the girls there had red-dyed hair and skimpy clothing. 3 office ladies were looking at her with disgust. How can she walk around in public like that? Does she have no shame? Her parents must be disappointed. I worry for Japan's future. As though it was tradition for them, ladies watched her pass by with cold sneers. I watched the clash as an outside observer. Imagining the girl's future, she'd more than likely change eventually. One day she might even ridicule youths just like these ladies here. It's my personal experience is that the people that ridicule the most are the people that either think about that and are envious of that the most, or the people that were in that position and grew out of it or just changed or whatever. Anyway, just thinking of the bizarre cycle was difficult to bear. The world never changes. Only new people get swapped in for the old. Ultimately, history repeats. I stopped thinking and began to walk faster, like I was trying to shake something off. Once I passed through the crowded area of downtown, my surroundings suddenly shifted to being nearly silent. The area around Aoyama Street and Central Street held the image of being fairly cacophonous, but get a small distance away and it quiets down considerably. I find it strange. Such did I think about the unusual phenomenon as I walked down the narrow road towards the residential area. It took no time at all to find Oz's apartment. Shibamiki Residential Complex. The small apartment seemed appropriate for a man who was living by himself. My objective was to collect evidence and to ask for information from the neighbors. While a natural thing to expect of a detective in a novel, change the acting character to a lawyer and it becomes remarkably more difficult. As the one charged with defending the alleged criminal, it should come as no surprise if anyone asks I refuse to cooperate. Or if anyone I ask refuses to cooperate. Bleh. You have some reason to be here? A woman in her 50s asked me. She knew immediately that I didn't live at this apartment complex and seemed particularly attentive for her age. I took that to mean she was the landlady here. Are you the landlady? Yes, why? Without moving an eyebrow, the middle-aged woman watched my every move. I assumed it was because of her personality, but every one of her words contained undeniable malice. I'm here to ask about the former resident of this apartment. PN 3984032. PN 897098 legally. You a cop? No, I'm Oz-san's defense attorney. My name is PN 3541069. So you're on his side? You could say so, yes, but that's not entirely the case. I have some trouble explaining this, but I can tell you I have no personal attachments to the subject. I'd like to ask for your cooperation so we can get to the truth and ensure a proper sentence is delivered. After that, all I could do is hope she's gracious enough. Oh, no use in blaming you. Thus, the woman began to ramble. Everyone's moving out of here now thanks to that punk, and nobody wants to move into a place a crazy killer lived either. You'd be surprised. It doesn't even matter how cheap I go. Nobody will take it. I don't believe you, but sure. Like a mafioso with a machine gun, the woman unleashed a barrage of complaints. Nearly 10 minutes later, she finally got everything out of her system. So, you want to go to his room, you say? That would be ideal for me, yes. The woman pouted her lips. It looked like just one more push would do it. Hopefully, I asked the lady a question. What do you think about all this? About what? What Oz-san did. Oz lived in this apartment since he moved to Tokyo 5 years ago. That being the case, he must have had some degree of interaction with the landlady. If you wanted to feel remorse for his crimes, I'd like to ask for your cooperation. As a lawyer, it's in my interests to make sure he gets the proper punishment, whether he's innocent or guilty. Can you help me achieve that? One sec, I'll go get the key. Thank you. I wasn't expecting such ready agreement. Perhaps she was relatively close to Oz after all. In any case, I waited for the landlady to return. When I entered the living room, I was met with an atypical sight. It was packed with plastic models of robots. Gundane? The carefully filled boxes were, indeed, branded with MS Series Mobile Fleet Gundane. Another robot was glaring at me. On the other side was the strange scene was a PC. It was an old IBM, 2016 by the way. So old as not to have the necessary specs to assemble a high-end program, in fact. Maybe the judge of that. Well, we just see a monitor. Ow, my wrist keeps popping. Which you can theoretically hook up that type of monitor to a modern computer. As a matter of fact, I think there are some people that play certain FPS games that actually hook up non-LCD, not composite, shit, my mind just went blank. CRT, cathode ray tube, TVs into a computer because of the much higher refresh rate, but you know. So I'm gonna hold off judgment until I see a computer. And even then, just a case doesn't really matter. It's, you know, you can put whatever the fuck you want into a case. I mean, hell, I've had the desire to get like whatever the cheapest, shittiest PC ever made was, like an E-machine from like 2002 or something like that, and build like the most expensive computer I can afford and put it in that shitty little case. But you know, that's not something I'm going to do at the moment. I confirmed the speakers were off before turning the PC on. I'd forgotten how long it took for old PCs to start up. Just looking at the desktop, I didn't find anything suspicious. Of course, the apartment had already been searched, so they would have found something if there was. I found a piece of paper behind a bunch of his plastic models. It looked like a receipt or something. I took a look at it. Red nip cap. 1. Was it 1 p.m., 1 a.m., 1:00? The line is written haphazardly on the sheet. What is it? So what would that be? Bizburger fnack buch. All over the piece of paper are traces of other words. Was he using this to test a pin, maybe? On close inspection, there's traces of writing over the bzz part too. I stuck the tiny memo sheet in my pocket. I closely inspected the room afterwards, but didn't turn up anything new. On top of that, not only did I not find any books related to programming, but I couldn't even find something related to the internet. All he had was manga and anime magazines. So Oz was telling the truth? Either way, it looked like it looked to be of some use for my defense. After I finished checking the room to some extent, I went back to the PC. The old OS was resistant to the now standardized terabyte hard drive, but it somehow managed to boot up. What? What? I mean, I know OS and like hard drive space limits, but what does a terabyte hard drive have to do with boot speed and whether it can boot up at all? Because, you know, my, God, I have a terabyte and a half? Maybe. Something like that. Internal hard drive, or just a standard hard drive, HDD. And I have like half a terabyte, 500, I think it's 550 gig. Solid state drive. My smaller solid state drive that my OS is installed to launches faster than my 1.5 question mark terabyte hard drive. I'm not like supercomputer. My head hurts. His accessories were, as should have been expected, filled with mechas from Gundane, as were his icons. I was somewhat stunned, but move on and access the HDD through my computer to check what was inside. Yes, that's not a thing anymore, actually, because Windows 10, I'm trying to remember if 8 does. I don't remember. I think I used Windows 8 for like a week because I had Windows 7, and then that computer died, and then I had a computer that had Windows 8 on it, and Windows 10 was released like a week later, and I said, fuck this, and upgraded to Windows 10. I don't remember. I don't remember if Windows 8 had my computer or if it was this PC. I don't fucking remember. None of the internal hard drives, C, D, G, contained any obvious clues. Okay, that's good, because usually E is typically or F at least, is typically a CD drive. E is typically a floppy drive, right? Or is it A and B that are typically floppy drives, and E and F are typically, I don't remember. I actually don't remember, like, at all. Nor did the external one. God, he has, fuck, Christ. Why does he have so many hard drives? Like, on this old piece of shit IBM. It's 2016. This was written in, like, 2009. Oh, whatever. There was one thing that stood out, however. On the desktop of one internal drive was an icon named diary.txt shortcut. I attempted to view the file by clicking the shortcut, but it appeared to have been deleted. Next, I opened the shortcut's property windows to check where it linked to. f/documents/diary.txt. An external drive, huh? Actually, I think typically F is a CD drive, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure that F is a CD drive. Or specifically, like, because Windows codes certain things, at least in the past, I'm pretty sure it did. Certain drives were specifically programmed to be floppy drives and only floppy drives. And certain things are to be CD drives and only a disk drive, rather. Fuck, I don't remember. I'm so out of, like, I don't remember at all. I'm drawing a complete blank. I'm just going to move on. So we got rid of the original file, but forgot to delete the shortcut. That's a relatively common occurrence. My brain is dying, I think. I can't remember anything. Computers are a mystery to me, apparently. Putting that aside, the file name. He was keeping a diary? Well, that in itself isn't what's important. I couldn't guess what he was keeping one for, but why would he feel the need to get rid of it? If he was saving the diary on his PC, that opens up the possibility that he was part of an online community or maintained his own web page. To test my hypothesis, I looked for an FTP program on the start menu. So, let's see. Just looking at that, I'm pretty sure that's a Windows XP, which was still in service in 2009. I don't remember when XP was no longer supported, but I'm pretty sure by 2016 it was no longer supported. Could be wrong. Could have been a little bit later. Not by much, though. But that is, I'm pretty confident that's Windows XP that he's using there. Just going by the color and the shape of things. And in 2016, on an old IBM like this, I think it would have been able to run Windows XP. And just going back, as I say, it's an IBM. We haven't seen shit and we don't know anything about its internals. I think in 2016, this computer would not have been able to get online outright. I think the only way it could have is through things like Usenet or, not Usenet. Shit. What is the other thing called? Maybe it is Usenet. I don't remember. I don't think this computer would have been able to be online in 2016. I don't think this computer would have been able to run a fucking internet, just anything. Like, I don't think you would have been able to run Internet Explorer to access the internet, or at least a modern version of Internet Explorer anyway. Whatever. But I think you would have been able to use Usenet. I think it's called Usenet, but I don't remember. I'm dwelling too much on stuff that doesn't matter. Found one with only one host registered. I tried connecting to it. Nothing appeared. Judging by the host name, it was likely a rental server. Maybe a subscription ran out. I stuck my PP flash drive into the USB port and started saving info. I don't remember if IBM PCs of that. Because when I think an IBM, if somebody says it's like an old IBM, I'm thinking like a PS2 or a 486 or something like that from like the early to mid 90s. I don't actually remember when IBM outright stopped making computers. But that's when my thinking of where they stopped making like public computers was like in the 90s. So, take that is what I'm going with, and not just like some fucking computer from like 2004 and whatever. I have no clue. The host name, or the host address, and the name and the username. Then it was just the password. I ran a password cracking tool from a folder in the flash drive. Before long, it displayed the words Sin Shadow. So, never mind. Good thing it wasn't just a combination of letters and numbers, just random letters, Whatever. The best thing to do would be to call Ness on the PP after I was done here. PP. He knows more about internet-related matters than me. I guess that was about all I could do. After one final look around, I left Oz's room. Took you long enough? The lady waiting at the bottom of the stairs looked very displeased. Sorry. Thank you for your cooperation. Goodbye. Hold on. She stopped me as I tried to make my leave. Yes? I don't think he's the type of guy who could kill someone. I appreciate the consolation. No, I'm serious. I don't much like the way he composed himself, but he was a really quiet boy. It was only after he started buying those weird robots that he began acting strange. The Gundanes, you mean? Dunno, but I think they were called something like that. His room's full of them, yeah? I asked him about a week ago why he suddenly started collecting these things. Told me, because I have to. Suddenly? Community told me yesterday that Gundane began airing last year. Was Oz not a fan initially, but abruptly took an interest in the show? Pop. Did he ever tell you where he was buying the robots, or anything else related? Nah. By the time I asked him, he was already totally out of his gourd. He used to seem a bit more normal. Is that so? Thank you for telling me. Careful on your way home. I bowed to the solemnly smiling woman and left the Shibamiki residential complex. And I think that is where I'm going to end off this episode. I know mid-scene, but it's these scenes are kind of long. So, yeah, we're going to end mid-ish scene. We have a meeting with Ness, likely Ness. I'm making assumptions, but I think that's probably who it is because that's who she wanted to get to investigate things. So, you know, and we did get a little bit of information about Oz and his living conditions. And I bitched about computer choices, and it's very likely very wrong because I'm not like the most knowledgeable about computers. I know some, but I'm not the most knowledgeable. And my brain was just bleh, for some reason. The moment I tried thinking back to it, maybe it's because I'm recording or something like that. I haven't drank very much. I've drank like a shot's worth of wine, which isn't that much. Yeah, I have a different game on my mind. Goddamn Kaiserreich. But anyway, next time, I think we're going to have a conversation with Ness and maybe try to find out a bit more about either Oz's possible motives or, well, some of the strangeness that I think has been alluded to. But that's for next time, and I hope to see you all there.